There we go. Hello and welcome, everyone. As much as you can, come on camera so we can see your beautiful faces. It's difficult in this time where we're also separated in our different little cubby holes. And it's beautiful if we can get on Zoom and connect and not be distracted by our devices. So I'm so excited today to introduce my beautiful friend and soul sister, Amanda Porter. She spreads her light over this whole world with her passion for being a guide and a way shower for others who are navigating this, emotional path that we're all on here as human beings. Yeah. So I'm so excited that she decided to do it, something she's been wanting to do for a while, writing a book, bringing it together, emotions for our kids. So let me read you a little extract from the book. Growing up can be tough. Everything is being experienced for the first time in childhood, and feelings can get very big very quickly. One of the most important skills a child can develop in life is the ability to recognize their emotions and verbalize how they feel in productive ways. The engaging booklet provides self-identification tools, talking points, and essential little partners to help children feel safe, expressing themselves, experiencing their emotions, and finding their own positive solutions. So, without further ado, Amanda Porter, we welcome you. We thank you for joining us and for showering us in your wisdom and your love. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Vanessa. I am honored to be here and love Vanessa. We've known each other for years and collaborated on some really fun projects across the continents. So I appreciate the invite and I appreciate all of you showing up and being here and being willing to explore this topic with me. So I have some slides that I will share. And just so you know, feel free to ask questions. Sometimes I can't see the chat when my slides are up, but if there's something important, maybe Vanessa can call it out or something. If not, I'll also do a Q&A at the end. So make sure you're saving up your questions if you just have different questions that pop into your mind, and we can chat about them at the end. So I'll just go ahead and share that screen now. All right, you should be able to see that. Everybody see that okay? Okay, perfect. All right, so we're here to talk about emotions and essential oils. My name is Amanda Porter, as Vanessa mentioned. I want to give you just a little bit about my background, what led me to this latest project on emotions and essential oils for kids. So, and it's just a lovely night that I sat outside. So hopefully that's not distracting, but it's very peaceful out here. And I just needed the nature today. It was one of those days, you know how it is. So my background, I am the author of Emotions and Essential Oils, 7 editions of that. And it's now published under Essential Emotions. And I started this journey with that book a decade ago. But before that, I was also an emotional health facilitator and advocate, international speaker, entrepreneur, and a mom. And that all came after. So that is definitely where the mom part is probably my biggest credential for this book. And for those of you who are parents, I want to walk this path with you for helping our children. For those of you who aren't and just know a child, love a child, you're a cousin, you're an aunt, you're an uncle, you're a friend. I think all of these concepts are universal. So please feel welcome, whether it's your grandchildren or your neighbor's children, to embrace these concepts and to walk through this with me. So I love to start out on a foundation just for everyone to make sure we're on the same page. I know there's probably differing backgrounds, how people came to this event and where they are with aromatherapy or emotional processes in general. So I want to give sort of my basic overview about the emotional response process, and just so you can understand my come from and how I think about these things leading up to sort of the books that I write and the concepts that I teach about. So first of all, I want everyone to just acknowledge and hopefully accept at some point that emotions are normal responses to life. They are just designed for our survival and our learning. And emotions are actually chemicals, and they're chemical signals that are sent from the brain and the body. And so because they're chemical signals, signals can change. And if I had one sort of mantra or something I would want for you to take away from this is to think about emotions moving forward, especially as we're working with children, that this is our goal for them is to flow with them and not against them. So we can redirect the stream, but we don't dam up the stream. And I know that emotions can feel big for adults and children, but if we think about going through this, on the same page and with the flow and with the energy of what the emotions are leading, they are our teachers. And so we need to listen to what they're saying in order to be guided out to the other side in a positive way. So a couple of things about the neurochemistry of aromatherapy and emotions in general. You'll see the brain picture there on the right-hand side. All of our experiences that we have that come in through our senses, so smell, sound, sight, touch, taste, etc., they're all routed into the limbic center of our brain. And this is where our amygdala is. That is basically the decision maker about what kind of emotional reaction we're going to have, again, designed for our survival. And so we're going to talk about how this works then when you introduce aromatherapy before I kind of get into some of these other concepts so that we're all on the same page. So the aromatherapy response process. So we talked about the emotional response process. We have something that comes in through our senses. It's routed into the limbic center of the brain, into the amygdala. Decisions are made. Well, the same thing happens with an essential oil. The stimulus then is obviously olfactory. It's smell, and our olfactory routes fast into our limbic center, and doesn't pass go, doesn't stop. It just goes straight in, and so it's a really, really powerful activator for the limbic system. So when we inhale an essential oil, I'll skip kind of all the scientific details, but there is, the olfactory nerve, and there's receptor molecules for the molecules that route in, and this is how the nerve stimulates, and they go directly into the limbic center, to the amygdala, for an emotional decision, basically about the stimulus. So if you were to have something that you saw, for example, a tiger charging towards you, that would be a stimulus that your amygdala would immediately recognize as danger, and it would send a totally different signal. But if you have an essential oil that routes in and the amygdala recognizes the scent as something pleasing, which most essential oils are, very, very calming and relaxing and just rejuvenating and stimulating in really positive ways. If you don't have some negative scent memory, then the amygdala is going to make an interpretation about that. And that is going to elicit this cascade of events. So you're getting a positive emotional response. So when you inhale an essential oil, so like I'm going to take this blend that I love. It's a children's blend. And I inhale that. It routes all the way through to the amygdala, like I said, and there is an emotional response that's initiated. In this case, it's very calming and soothing to the nervous system. And there's a chemical response that you're moving down this graphic with me that happens in response to that. So if I was in, fight or flight and really stressed out, I'd be having cortisol and adrenaline pumping through my system. But when I inhale this essential oil and I have that sense of calm, emotionally, things start to level out in the waters. Chemically, you're getting sort of the antidote to those stress chemicals being released. You have serotonin and different positive chemicals that are offsetting those, which leads to that physical response when you actually feel your body relax. You feel your breath start to return to normal, your heart rate start to return to normal. And that's how essential oils actually work with us on a chemical level. So this is our neurochemistry. This is how aromatherapy works. So for any of you who are new to this concept, I want to just kind of lay that foundation. That is why, I've been doing aromatherapy in particular intensely for the last 10 years, because it has such an effect on our emotions. And when I was working with my clients before introducing essential oils into the emotional healing process, is a game changer. And that's the basis for my original book about what each of the oils does. So moving on, let's talk about how aromatherapy works for kids, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So one of the things that is really great about kids is that their brains are fresh and new and developing. And so the difference between kids and adults is that they don't have a lot of really deep ruts in their road or tracks laid down from generations and years of things happening in certain patterns. And so when you're looking at using aromatherapy with children, the exciting thing for me is that, because I've worked with adults for decades in their emotional work, but with children you're doing a lot more teaching than you are necessarily healing, because they don't have these entrenched emotional issues as deeply as adults do. And so it gives you this opportunity to work with aromatherapy, to work with emotional healing concepts, and redirect where they would go in life, instead of having to just sort of pull out all of those things that weren't working and try to redirect that. So the but I want to just stop here and give a caveat, because having said that, uh, about how our brains can change and how they're developing for kids, neuroplasticity is the ability for the brain to change. So you have a certain, set track that you've been on emotionally, and then you feel like you're stuck there, but that's not actually fact. The brain can change and you can redirect. And it's the same thing for children. They're actually very much more plastic, very much more malleable. So if there has been some trauma or some negative experiences in a child's life, it's a really great opportunity to write a brighter chapter and to help those issues before they become really ingrained and really deeply entrenched for the rest of their life. Because I know that for me, the impetus in writing this book, it came to me right before, at the end of 2019, this concept was kind of brought to me and shown to me that this was going to come forward. And it didn't materialize until the very end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And the process of that year of watching the world, of experiencing it ourselves, of watching the impacts that it had on children and people in general, with all of the changes in the world and all of the fear that was happening, it definitely left a lot of people with some scars, children included. And the thing that I want to just put out there, with as much positive intent as I possibly can, even if you haven't seen a negative change in the emotions of a child in your life, I would invite you to be open to the possibility that most of the time we don't show our emotional issues when we're in a fight or flight survival state. It's when we actually come to a safe place, the calm after the storm, that people feel safe enough to reveal the emotional issues that were developed during a time of crisis. And so I would love for more people to have these tools and have this information, so that they can understand when emotional issues may start to surface this year as life starts to return back to normal, that during that safety is a lot of times when we start to show up with the things that we may have kept hidden underneath the waters, when we didn't feel quite safe enough to do that. There's a psychologist by the name of Maslow that talks about the hierarchy of needs, and how you have to have your basic needs met before you can move on to other needs that we have in life. So you need to be safe and have shelter and have food, and then after that, there's procreation, and then after that there's creativity. After that we can look into emotional issues and eventually serve our higher purpose. But these things come in stages. And there's a lot of people who haven't realized, adults and children alike, they've been in a survival state. They've been in hyper alert, they've been in fight or flight, and they need to return, from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And that's when some things will start to surface. So if there has been some trauma, or if you end up seeing some emotional side effects from the state of the world, just know that this is an opportunity to write a brighter chapter for children as well. So that's what I said. I wrote this new book, Emotions and Essential Oils for Kids. And I want to talk about some of the purpose and the vision that I had for this, so that, you can see where I'm going and what my goal is through this conversation. So the first thing I want to talk about is starting the conversation. Most of us in the world were not taught or even modeled how to talk about our feelings, our emotions. We different families, different cultures, different expectations, but most of us had some messaging about emotions that made them wrong or something to suppress. And so we don't even know how to talk about this. And I wrote the book to give you a vehicle to start the conversation with children. You don't have to know what to say. You don't have to make it this big thing. It'll allow you to have the conversation as you move through the book with a child. The other thing that is important for me is to self-identify emotions. There is a lot of studies coming out about the necessity for our emotional intelligence to be able to self-identify, to know what we're feeling, to be able to put words to it. And it's a skill that all children need to learn for their eventual success in life. The old model was it's your IQ that determines your success in life. And now we're understanding more and more that's your emotional intelligence, your emotional quotient, that is your real determiner of success in life. And so self-identifying is one of those critical pieces. And I built in certain tools into the book to help with that. And I can talk about that a little bit more later. The other thing is to find positive solutions. So we're having an emotional experience. The child in our life is having an emotional experience. And this will help you walk you through the process from self-identification to a positive solution that they can really create for themselves and come out the other side. The other purpose was to create connection. There's been, as Vanessa said at the beginning of this, there's been so much isolation and we don't even see each other's faces as much as we used to. And so this gives you an opportunity to connect in a real meaningful way and just create more connection, in your family units or with the child that you care about. And the last thing was an opportunity to model some self-care. Because again, most of us weren't taught how to care for ourselves. And when there's aspects of parenting that involve self-sacrifice, right? Especially you've got a newborn and they have needs and they need to be met no matter how tired you are. And there's a difference between temporary self-sacrifice and eternal self-sacrifice, where you never end up taking care of yourself. And so this is sort of an epidemic of its own in our cultures across the world. Most modern cultures are too busy, go, showing up for self-sacrifice, working hard, and we don't actually show our children how to take care of themselves. So I was thinking about that. This book gives them a way to care for themselves emotionally. And with you working with them through this book and through this process and showing them how to do it, and then hopefully using essential oils and doing your own emotional work, this will model how to care for yourself and how that's done. So that was one of the goals. So let me tell you a little bit more about this process. So I love this kids collection. It's put out by Doterra. And I based it off of this kids collection because I loved the blends. I thought it was beautiful, and they're already diluted. They're really well done. And so I use the names of this blend, so Calm, Stronger, Thinker, Steady, in the book because they're a very diverse group of oils. But if you don't use these oils, or you have a different, if you have a lot of other oils at home, I can give you alternate blends that you can kind of DIY yourself if you like, if that's your thing. So you can make up some blends that you can also just label as Steady, Thinker, or Calmer, or Rescuer. So again, I love these oils. I love them so much that I thought they were a really great base, but I can also provide some alternates if you're interested in that. All right, so let's talk about how to use emotions and essential oils for kids. So the book is, very, very kid friendly. So, there we go. So it has a lot of really pretty pictures. It's got pictures of children. This girl is in the book, and it gives you the emotional purpose behind each one of these blends and what they can help with in a child's life. And in my other books, the definitions and the oil descriptions are very adult. They're much more complex, they're deeper, they're bigger words. And so this one is definitely geared to be for a child's level and situations that children would face in their life. So when I'm giving the oil descriptions about what these blends will do emotionally, they're definitely geared on their level. There's also some top tips about giving you ideas on different blends for ways that you can interact and get more out of that experience with your child or the child that you care about and interact. There's also how to use it and some affirmations and some visualizations and different things in the book that will help sort of round out this process. The other thing too that I really envisioned is I wanted to create ownership for children, to have this instruction manual for their toolbox of emotional well-being. So they know they have a book to turn to, they have some oil bottles that go with it. Children love this tactile experience and they love this sort of kinesthetic involvement. And so this can be this empowered way to find out about their emotions and something they can do about it, and also something you can do together. And depending on their age, they will probably choose to do this on their own as well. So I really want you to come at this with the child in your life in a really open way and make sure that you're beginning this process with choice. Whenever you're working with children and essential oils, choice matters to all of us. We love to feel like we're in charge of our life and that we get to choose what we're doing. So I want to just put that out there and make sure that you are approaching this in a way that the child feels like they're choosing in. The other thing I wanted to say is make sure that you choose the right moment, which is before it's needed. So if you have this book and you have these oils and you know that you have these situations that you want to address, you can visualize that in your mind, make sure that you're doing this and introducing the oils, the book, any sort of emotional healing work, whatever that is, at the right moment in a place where people are calm, they're rested, they're fed, they're happy, and then you will get this buy-in from them, the excitement. This book in particular, it's very exciting. There's a lot of kid graphics, there's a lot of kid pictures, and so they'll be excited to jump in and to use it. So just make sure that you get their buy-in, you do it, and then they know, okay, the next time we have a situation when we feel like we need it, then we'll pull it out and do it again, so that they have that buy-in ahead of time. And the other thing too is I really want you to start with honesty, because children are little detectors and they pick up on our truth and our hidden truth and our energy and our vibration and what we're not saying. They know, for example, that we may struggle with our emotions, not knowing what to do with them, not knowing how to work through them, not knowing how to work with their emotions. And so coming from a place of honesty will really engender that trust that you need, that, we're all in this together and I struggle and let's do this together. Let's learn how to do this together. And that will create a really safe and open space to begin this process. So I envisioned this book and using the oils to go with it in two different ways. The first way is aromatic intervention, which I believe I coined the term. It just came to me one day, or a mood choice. And I'll talk to you about how to do both of those. So the first thing is on the contents page, there's the positive states for all of the oil blends. So for example, the Brave oil blend is courageous and empowered. And so calm and collected, soothe and reassured, patient and grounded. So if you know that something is coming up, they have a big event or they're going to be in a play or they're going to get up in front of the class or whatever it is, and you want to set them out on the right foot and choose that mood and help anchor that emotion with an aroma, you can use these blends, read them through, and they can anchor that state. So they can be more courageous and empowered walking into something, and know that they have that tool with them for their emotions. The other way to use the book, which I spent more effort on because being a parent myself, I thought might be a little bit more prevalent, is an aromatic intervention. And so this is a little snippet of the How Are You Feeling Now page, that graphic that's up on the screen. And this is a way for them to look at that oil drop emoji. If they're readers yet, they can self-identify. Even readers, kids just love emojis these days. And so it gives them something to emotionally identify with. And then there's emotion words and statements underneath of them, which you may have to help them connect the dots on that. And then there's the oils that I recommend for those states, and you can read about them and they can help choose. I think this one's the best for this situation. So this gives you this opportunity. Remember when I was talking about the importance of self-identifying? So they're able to use this to self-identify. We're not overly prescribing. We're helping them choose into the process and identify how they're really feeling. And these words underneath of there are to help you help them realize what motion situations, if you will, go with different emotions. Because, for example, if a child is wanting to hide from something, you know, and they're suddenly showing this behavior of, I don't want to go there, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go to this place, and they may not recognize that as the emotion of fear, but this is something that you can help them tie together. So they have that you're afraid of what would happen there. So let's talk about that fear and what you're afraid of and what the situation is. And so it gives you that opportunity to kind of decode their emotions with them. And again, they get to verbalize those feelings, which again, study after study is proving how important that is. And one of the things that they've shown is that just the act of verbalizing your feelings, adults and children alike, engages your prefrontal cortex. And that choice alone, like when you start to engage the prefrontal cortex, it down regulates the limbic system's emotional response. So if you have a situation that's out of control emotionally, using your words and trying to talk about those feelings will completely shift the amygdala response, the overactive emotional reaction. As it begins to engage the prefrontal cortex, it naturally starts to downregulate that. And the other thing is it engages their choice and autonomy. Everyone likes to, again, feel like they have a choice. And for me, like when I'm working with my children, I will, if they're stuck and they're not finding their words, depending on their ages, then I can sometimes say, okay, it seems like you're frustrated. Is that how you're feeling? And if I get it wrong, they love to correct me. No, mom, I'm irritated. I'm not frustrated. Right. Absolutely. So whatever that is for you, you're helping them self-identify, but you're also helping them choose. So the aromatic intervention is something that is really, really important for if you're working with a child, because sometimes, as Vanessa read in the snippet earlier, their emotions are just too big. They don't know what to do with them, and they need some help to be able to navigate through that. So I think there's something popping up here.
Amanda,
Yes.
I was just going to say, this is so prevalent right now as well in teens, like not just children, they just have that they don't seem to have the capacity to really articulate it. And I've had a few private messages just around that. And, I'm just trying to say what you're saying applies for children is actually applying for teens as well, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does. It actually, it applies to all people, honestly. Because whenever we're emotionally compromised, when the amygdala is sort of, sending the alarm signals and, it's going into survival mode, we disconnect, right, from the prefrontal cortex. We've seen this happen all over and over and over again. When you have something that happens, you have a strong emotional response, and then it's only a few minutes later that your sort of reason catches up to you again, and you realize, oh gosh, I probably shouldn't have done that or said that, or I could have done this a different way, or maybe I overreacted. So the more intense you're feeling emotionally, the less likely you are to be able to regulate that. So it is the same for all people, not just for children.
So
Yes.
there's a question. Can we request Amanda do a teen book so you guys, if you can understand the way the essential oils work with chemistry of our emotions, chemistry of our brain, of our hearts, of our guts, then you'll understand that this kids blend that Doterra has come out with, these blends are sensational for children, for teens, for us. It's for everyone. And the way Amanda is explaining this whole process is for us. It applies to us. This isn't just our children response. Even though Amanda's talking about that children often don't have the words, think about how many times you don't have the words to express what you're feeling. You can't articulate it because you're in the thick of it. And I can see in the comments there, some of you are saying, well, my child doesn't want to use oils in the time when then they're in the thick of it. Well, maybe not, because maybe they just don't want to feel like we're just trying to put essential oils to gloss over what they're feeling. Usually when we're in those high emotional times, it can manifest as things like we don't want touch, we don't want verbal engagement, or we just want to hide. So there's different ways that people respond to this big emotionality that is life right now. So if you can all just maybe take a step back and release the label of, emotions and essential oils for kids, and just see this as for our children and our teens, and indeed this will support us, because it's going to give us a communication model that we can operate on. I've already got 2 pages of notes. I do this whenever Amanda presents because she's so articulate. But if you can look at this as a communication model that we can join with our children in and our teens in, to help just peel back the layers so that they can just feel a little safer to self-express. Yeah.
Absolutely. Vanessa's absolutely right on that. And I've had people in a lot of the different events I've done with this, different places around the world, where adults will message me afterwards and say, I'm going to use this model for myself. I didn't know how to do this. And so I'm going to try to self-identify and choose an oil and work through that process in my own way, because I never was taught how to do this. And so absolutely, you can use the model. This book specifically was just making sure that they're at the kids level, because like I said, my other books are definitely more adult. And so this was making sure we can reach them. It's really applicable. It's not complicated. There's not too many layers for them to understand. They don't have the life experience, right, to do that. And so absolutely, but the model is the same, whether you're an adult or a child. That page that talks about how are you feeling now, like Vanessa was saying, right? This is the adult process as well. You identify your emotions. You can use some tools to try and identify those things and the oils that support it, and walk through that process, and you'll be benefited from it. So thank you for that. That's a really good point. The other thing too, there was a question I saw in the chat. I had to change screens to see it, but that was about how do I get their engagement? That's why I wrote the book. Because like Vanessa said, you don't want to be overly prescriptive and here I'm going to gloss over your emotions. You need this. This is a way to get them to buy in and choose their emotional work themselves. So if you can choose this in a better time, they'll have this autonomy, this choice, and this willingness to find their own positive solutions, less about you prescribing it and more about them choosing in to what they feel is a good match. So really good points there. Okay, so perfect. It looks like those have been answered. And I'm going to talk about the dilutions in just a second. So one other thing, as we're talking about this, to just help set the right tone, and this is perfect because there's a couple of questions in the chat about, how to approach this. So I want to make sure that you are making this a time for sharing, for relating, for validating. Again, this isn't you sort yourself out, you're having an emotional issue. That we could be frustrated as parents, and I get that, but we want to make sure that we are using this as an opportunity to share, relate, and validate. This gives you things to discuss together. It gives you these opportunities to connect in real, honest ways about your shared emotional journey. And some of the most important conversations that I've had with my kids about our emotional journey was me having to own my stuff. These kids are mirrors back at me, and I'll say, you know what? I was really frustrated, and this is what I was feeling. And even deeper than that, this is things that happened to me that caused me to feel that way. And I misapplied that in this situation, and it wasn't appropriate. My emotions just got too big, and I got frustrated with you. So let's talk about this. You got frustrated with me, and we can really make this a level playing field where we're both people on the emotional journey. And just because we have more experience than our children doesn't mean we're actually better at our emotions than they are. And there's some introductory content in the book that talks about it, and it talks to caregivers, and it also talks to the children, and it gives them some permission when they say, you know what, if the adults in your life didn't know what to do with their emotions, then this is your opportunity. You can model this, you can help the people that you love. And it also gives them permission to parents. I actually should probably add right here, because of the questions that came in, that I started to do a little parenting series on my author Facebook page. I just put out the first video about communication, because I feel like this is the tool that I chose to publish, but I'm also trying to round out some of that, because parenting is hard work. As is often said, we weren't given a manual. and we don't always know how to navigate the situations in front of us. And so I'm trying to put together some supportive information for parents or other caregivers and anyone who's interested about some things that we could use to help us model and communicate with our children a little bit better. So the first one was kind of, ground rules for communication and techniques for communication, and how to do some active listening and that kind of thing. And so we want to make sure that was on my Facebook page. It's called Parenting Ourselves. It's just a new series of videos that I'm putting out there if you're interested. But it gives you that same framework of, let's discuss this. Let's be honest. Let's just talk together about our shared emotional journey, because I may have more context for my story, but we all experience similar emotions because we're all human. So the other thing to remember as well is that you need to check in after the oil use to reinforce the positive effect. So we did that at the beginning, right? We self-identified, we talked about where we're feeling, we chose that we're feeling out of control, perhaps, or that we're feeling angry. And then we went through that process, found a positive solution, and then it helps them to reinforce that afterward, that you can show the positive effect, because that helps their brain make the connection. And asking them, how did they feel? It also helps them to build empathy, validation, and articulation practice themselves. So they can also practice validating their positive feelings, which is equally important. The other thing is that these activities create bonding neurochemicals that strengthen relationships. So like oxytocin, that is the bonding hormone that will actually help you strengthen your relationship. So if there's been a rift, if things have been hard, then these sort of activities help to bring you back together. And I give some tips in there for extra things you can do for that. And they also create an aromatic anchor. So this is and new neural pathways. And this is when you have some learning that you've done, some healing that you've done, and your brain is making these new neural pathways because it's brilliant and smart and learns, and it will remember how to do this next time. But if you add an essential oil aroma to that experience and to that learning, it creates an aromatic anchor, which, first of all, it creates a synergistic exponential effect to that learning, because it's a scent memory that's tied to that learning. That's very powerful for the brain. Memories are stored in the hippocampus. You're accessing these things. The amygdala is pulling those memories, and it kind of creates this rapid fire recall when you smell that aroma again. And so it assists in learning. Your brain is learning, your brain is, and their brains are creating these new neural pathways. So we might need to change, behaviors that have been entrenched, but they will be learning faster and faster how to deal with their emotions in a positive and productive way, which is ideal. So let me just check, because I saw some questions coming in. But like I said, I get the number, but I don't get the question. Oh yeah, sorry, it is called Parenting Ourselves, this little video series I'm doing on my Facebook page. It's just Amanda Porter, my author page, and I just put out the first one on communication. So yeah, absolutely go there if you have any questions. Message me afterwards. I'm happy to check in. All right, so then I have to put out a little disclaimer here about working with oils and children, because obviously, I love working with children in essential oils, but there are additional considerations. I just want to tick through these really quickly. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions and, discussing maybe concepts in deeper that you have questions about afterward. So let's just get through this so that we're all on the same page and we're using essential oils safely with the children that we care about. So children need additional safety considerations for essential oils than adults. You need to choose child appropriate oils, because not all oils are recommended for children. Now, this is something that, you have choice in, but it is important to understand that some oils aren't recommended for children, so you can make an informed choice. And, there's, for example, the wintergreens and those kinds of things that have Vanessa, what is it? Salicylic acid? I think, anyway, that is not recommended for children under a certain age. And it's basically the same thing that's in aspirin. So if you know that, then you wouldn't use, those two oils if that's important to you. The other thing is that some oils are just really, really hot. Oregano, cinnamon, you have to use a lot of precautions. I don't find children's bodies are really, they're really adaptive and they respond quickly. And so I haven't personally found a need for oregano in my children's oils, even though it's something I've used as an adult. So I know that they're intense oils. I know they're hot, but just knowing that there's, child appropriate oils, there's just a whole plethora of ones that are amazing that are to use. And if you just have a little bit of education about that, then carry on. And that's another reason I chose a pre-made kit. The one that I liked the best for children, because it's already done, it's already diluted, the oils are safe, it's done, you can roll it on and you're good to go. But if you get my alternate blends, I put in the dilution ratios and things like that, because it's just important that you make them ready to go, because when kids feel the ownership, they need to be safe to open that up and put them on, obviously above a certain age. Sensitivity test, understand and protect against photosensitivity, those oils that don't work in the sun, that can cause additional burning in the skin. Proper dilution and storage. So again, if we have toddlers around, we need to make sure our oils are up and away, and that we're properly diluting them with a carrier oil. So just so you know, in case any of you are unfamiliar with this, emotional dilution ratios are less potent than when you're working on a physical issue, and they're more appropriate for children and sensitive individuals. So a 1% dilution is going to work just fine for emotional stories and things that you're trying to work with. So there's that information done. You can ask me any questions about that later. So here we go, that page. So let me just get to this and then we'll start chatting about things. So if you want to order my book, Emotions and Essential Oils for Kids, you can go to thekidsemotions.com, choose your country, and you'll be directed to how to purchase the book. I would love for you to stay connected with me. Like I mentioned before, my Facebook page, Amanda Porter, the author page, has additional information coming out, like the Parenting Ourselves video series. We'll be putting more videos on the website and things like that, classes and freebies to come. So you can always check it out there. If you have any questions, email me, either the team at info@kidemotions, or you can send me something on Facebook. So let's get to your questions. I see that things are coming in. Oh, awesome. Thanks so much. And thank you, Tracy, the amazing Tracy, for that. Look at you dropping the links in. Thanks so much. So if you have any questions about anything that I didn't cover, to unmute yourself and let's start chatting about it, because I'd love to go over your questions. Just make
Do you
sure I
want to
didn't
stop
miss.
screen share, honey, and then we
Yep.
can see everyone's
Let's do that.
faces? Beautiful.
Yeah, here we go. All right. And then let me just see, did I miss any questions from you? So don't be shy. Shout out anything.
So there's been some questions just to start around, using some of the blends for less obvious things like the kids' Karma blend. The question was, how appropriate do you feel that would be for daytime use for a child who's feeling quite panicky or anxious, or maybe just, not connecting, so on and so forth. The big things that a lot of our kids and teens are going through right now. Yeah, not just leaving Karma for sleep. Do you want to speak to some of how the blends?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the thing about Calmer is, like I was mentioning back at the beginning, we have our nervous systems have been in high alert. So we've been in that fight or flight mode, a lot of stress chemicals. And so just using the Calmer blend will send those signals, send out those different neurochemicals and the hormones throughout your body, and just bring that stress down and be able to focus a little bit better, be able to ground a little bit better instead of kind of being in that frantic mode. And actually, Calmer, during homeschool moments here, is one of my son's favorites for trying to get through his school. He'll start to get anxious and panicky. It's showing up in, all these different ways. And he'll say, I need Calmer, Mom, before I go on to the next page. That's great. And there is a thinker blend that's for focusing and, attention issues and things like that. But this is the one that he needs, because it just sort of quiets it down and brings it back into focus and something that he can manage. So he actually uses this all day long when he's doing, schoolwork and that kind of thing, just to make sure that he's calming himself and kind of getting back into that space. The other one that's really good for anxious feelings is Steady. The oils in that are really good for anxious feelings and fears and that kind of a thing, that can help bring people back into center. So good questions. All right, so question here, Misha. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, thinker and steady are definitely when we're trying to focus and get, all kind of get our focus where it should be. Thinker is a great one. It has the stimulating oils for memory, thinking, processing. But then if we can't even focus because we have so much anxiety or feelings going on, steady and calmer are definitely ones that we use a lot. So, and like I said, calmer is the new favorite, and it's not even for bedtime. It's just because there's so much stimulus, so many things happening that, it kind of brings that situation down a bit. Good question.
Mm. Yeah, so the chemistry, so what happens is when these essential oils are formulated, each single note essential oil has its own unique chemistry. And then you begin to combine them with these other essential oils and they create what we call a synergy or a synergistic blend. So they're all kind of dancing with each other now and they're bringing out each other's superhero powers, if you imagine. So something like Thinker, which people immediately think, I'm going to use it for concentration, blah blah blah. Imagine this, imagine using it to help bring the mind, because you have some of those small leaves in there and some of the oils that really help to bring this focus, right? Imagine if for the overactive mind at sleep time, it's Thinker that they turn to, not to study but to help slow down their thoughts. So they have a little bit of Thinker placed on the top of their head, and you just place your fingers on the crown or on the occiput or here, wherever they're feeling it. They'll show you. They'll usually go, oh, I can't sleep, or they'll hold somewhere. And then you can either do it for them or do it with them, you on your head, them on theirs, and just take 3 deep breaths in there. And you can imagine a light going through, and you can bring a color in, like if they find green suiting, a beautiful green or a blue coming through, and they inhale it. And so that starts to quieten the monkey mind down. And then up and down their spine, that could be when steady goes on or calmer goes on before sleep. You engage them with a bit of massage. So please remember that, don't forget to look at which essential oils are in these amazing blends, because that will always indicate the different doorways you can open to supporting them in other areas in their life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing too is just to help you from a different angle about the other questions coming in about the different oils. In the book, there's also life situations to help make those connections, to help them with whatever situation they're being presented with. So, for example, in the description about Thinker in the book, I talk about them having to make decisions about and start to learn the difference between knowledge that helps and knowledge that hurts. Hello birds, they've just come sitting up there. So knowledge that helps and knowledge that hurts, and things that build up and things that tear down, and having to learn to choose. There's too many choices, so having to learn to choose things that are best for them or will kind of create the best good in their life. And so there's a wide range of topics here as you read through them. Some of the ones that I didn't put some of the tips into the book, but there's a lot of deeper concepts here about in the book that will help you weave through maybe some more complex circumstances in life. One of them is the stronger blend. And, it keeps it on a kid level, but it opens the door for you if you need to have these important conversations about boundaries, physical boundaries, and emotional boundaries, and helping them start to make those connections where they have a situation because they don't know. They'll be telling you about something that's happening. Maybe they're being emotionally manipulated by someone. Maybe something else is going on. And it starts to help them understand that process, opens the door for you as a caregiver to have those important conversations with them as well about you don't have to be hurt to be in a relationship. Good relationships about everybody being safe, about mutual respect, and about keeping your emotional boundaries, and also introducing concepts that they would have never understood on their own. For example, that you're not responsible for other people's feelings, and the best way for you to help them is to trust that they can handle that. So there's a lot, as you read through them, there's a lot of dynamic situations that you can use and apply to what's happening in their life that makes it more accessible for children, teens, and adults alike, so they can understand these concepts that maybe aren't self-apparent. So
Beautiful. Thanks, Amanda. So there's a question here. When introducing essentials to children who haven't yet seen oils used in their home, would you recommend that they pick a blend themselves that they connect with first, or would you recommend that you hand the calming blend because that is what you're trying to encourage?
So when you're first introducing essential oils, what I love to do is set out a set. So you could do it with the kids collection, you do it with any other oils that you have, and let them choose in. Absolutely. When they're first going through this process and being introduced to that, they love that. I mean, they love that. The different smells. I like this one more. No, I think I like that one more. And that that engages that autonomy, that choice, that buy-in. So they get excited. They get to choose the thing that's most important to them. And then, like, if you had like this kids collection, you could just have them choose, smell all these, which one is your favorite. We can use that, because any essential oil, single or blend, will help improve mood. I mean, these are being studied so much. And so you have so many oils that help with anxiety: bergamot, lavender, these flower blends and individual flowers, lavender, Roman chamomile, different oils will help these situations. And so you're getting so much bang for your buck with any chemistry that they're inhaling. And if they like that smell, all the better, because they're going to get positive benefit from that. And the reason I chose this format is not to exclude all the amazing oils that are, but it's to help create very set amount of choices for children when they're in a situation, because there's infinite choices and you can introduce new things and new concepts. But I thought having about 7 oils to choose from in a moment is probably contained and something that they can engage with and not feel overwhelmed. But do know that if they have a favorite oil, use it. Absolutely use it, because that will do amazing things for their chemistry. So good question. All right. Any other questions coming in? Let me check the chat as well. But if not, just unmute yourself. You can ask me and we can chat about it. Anything that you need more clarity on that I was discussing, or anything else, just go ahead and shout out.
They're all starstruck. It's Amanda Porter. She's very approachable, you guys. She's very down to earth and loving. Is there anything that you feel like went over your head a little bit, or you'd like a little bit more deeper understanding? Kath, let's do it.
I've had my camera off because I've been making salad. I've been making beautiful food while listening. I'd love to circle back to the oregano comment that you made, because two of my little ones actually have been unwell in this past week. And so I have been using oregano and On Guard on their feet to try and get them better. So would you recommend I've definitely been diluting it, but would you recommend I don't do that and just stick with like an On Guard to try and support their immune system?
It's really up to you. If you feel, as long as you're properly diluting, and I mean really properly diluting at that 1%, you're talking 5 drops in a 10 ounce for, or less. And you go down with ages. So depending on their ages, if they're over 10, that's a different story than if they're 2. Their skin is still very sensitive. They got that little baby skin still and a little chub and all of that. And their little feet are still kind of flat, and that kind of a thing. So it depends on their ages for sure. And also, as long as you're properly diluting. For my kids though, personally, they're not 10. I had kids later in life. So they're not 10 yet. I skip the oregano and stick to the On Guard on the feet, and dilute it. But they haven't, you know what? I have to say, there was one time with croup that I used a little bit of On Guard, because we ended up in the hospital. It was a pretty serious situation. So I was trying to negate that for the other days that we're working through that. And that did help. But it was a really critical situation. It was still very heavily diluted. So
Amanda, you just said you used On Guard. Do you mean that when you had the croup, you did use a little bit of oregano?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I did. Yeah, I use On Guard all the time on their feet when they're unwell, or their glands sometimes, but then the oregano, I used a teeny bit of that in the blend that I was using when they had croup, really highly diluted. So,
and I shared in another group of Vanessa's, I was also really called to use myrrh with them this week when they were sick as well. That just kind of was calling out to me. So excellent. Thank you.
Well, And also, when you look at the emotional story behind whatever's manifesting and the different physical symptoms, and myrrh is so connecting to mother, nurturing mother issues, and very, very maternal in the energy. And when we're unwell,
Yeah,
it's powerful in its physical properties, but it's powerful in its emotional properties. So I think that's great. As long as you are diluting properly, absolutely.
Okay, thanks
Yeah,
so much.
I think, thanks, Kath. Thanks, Amanda. I think what often happens is people just keep wanting to use lots and lots and lots. And the dilution I've been teaching for a long time now is, it's very similar to what Amanda's talking about. And the reason is their potency can never be underestimated. When we're in a high emotional state, and the parasympathetic system is not being activated. That's the sympathetic system. They're in that flight, fight, freeze over whatever's going on. It could be that they just got teased at school and their heart's broken. And then, the next thing and the next thing, and then the dog barks, and they're in this activated state of sympathetic overdrive. It's very important to remember that less is more. And when we're in that state, we are more vulnerable with our immune system. We are more vulnerable in terms of our disassociation with our emotions and the overwhelming engagement we can have with them, or lack of engagement. We want to run away from them. So, one drop of oregano and one drop of on guard in, say, 10 to 15 mils, and you can just pop that in, a roller bottle or something, or make a master blend in a bigger bottle. That dilution she gave earlier, the 1% was for 30 mils. You can do that and just use it. And as you use it, let's say Sam's putting it on her child, and she's just massaging just a little bit from her hands on her child's feet, or up and down the spine of lavender and frankincense, it might be, or oregano and on guard on the feet. Noticing how the child responds, noticing how the teen responds. This is really important, because then you'll create a deeper understanding of the dilution that works for your child, and not just dilution, but the amount to use in any given point in time, because they become more sensitive, their senses heightened, they're sensorily, in this hyper state. So if they don't want touch, disengage from touch and do something like, I haven't got one sitting by me, but a nasal inhalant. They're really effective. So you put the insert, you just take some of the kids blend out, for instance, and you roll the insert in one of those kids blends, if that's what they love, or in some, lavender or whatever it may be, pop that in and they can just inhale it. So effective. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to drop that in. Tracy's adorable. She's going to drop you in all of the things here when she sends out the recording. Amanda, you won't see this because it accidentally got sent straight to me, but it says, thank you so much, Amanda and Vanessa, for this great presentation. So inspiring. I have to step out now as kids are starting school. And that's from Oman. She's in Oman watching this. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And Tony, do you have your hand up there? Do you want to unmute?
I do. I've got a question about my grandson, who's just about to turn 3, has night terrors. So I'm just wondering about a bedtime routine. My daughter's tried a number of things. They've got the kids' collection, which he adores. I just wondered if there was some sort of routine that might work better, because she's not winning.
Yeah, night terrors are hard. Just acknowledge that that's a hard one. And there's obviously some things manifesting that, for that soul need to show up at that moment. But I would say that using the essential oils, the most calming, whichever essential oil blend that the child is drawn to, I would use that one. Have them inhale, have them choose. Their intuition will lead them to the right one. But definitely I would use start a night ritual where you talk through things and their safety and how they feel, and if this happens or if that happens, and have them be able to have that experience. If they're okay with touch, a foot massage, because that is going to trigger those chemicals before they go to sleep. right? So it's really going to bring them back into the heart space and the body. They feel emotionally connected before sleep. And then another oil, just so you know, is juniper berry. That helps a lot with night issues, nightmares, different things like that. So if you wanted to put a drop of that into the blend with the carrier oil, massage that in, that will help to create that connection and move it through. The other thing I would recommend, is to talk about what's happening the next day. So if there's a memory of the night terrors and there's fear and things carrying over into the next day, you're going to want to use the oils that support that. So you might want to, if they wake up and they've been afraid, and they're still shaking and they still have that experience, use stronger, create and have them visualize that emotional barrier. They could do that at night if that would be better, or in the morning if they're remembering that. You have to feel out what's best, but have them create that emotional barrier, so they can keep all of that danger out, keep themselves safe in their bubble, so they're strong enough and protected to go about their day. And just kind of use that, try one at night, try it in the morning, and see which one kind of works best for them, so they know that they're be protected if they need to be protected before they go to bed, or if they need that sense of protection after they wake up and they're kind of in that state still. But those oils would really help to give them that visual. It's in the book too. Visualizing a barrier around you is so helpful. Energetically, it does create that space between a child and what they're afraid of. It's pretty powerful.
Okay,
Good
cool.
question.
Thank you.
Can I add a little something, Amanda? Is that all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So the cocoon of light that Amanda's talking about is really important. I've been doing it since mine were so young, and reminding them all the time. And if you hear me lead you into meditation, it's pretty much that meditation. Imagine golden cocoon of light around you. Yeah. But something that's really helpful for me to remember when I'm navigating this is what goes in has to come out. No matter what age, no matter where we're at in our life, what goes in has to come out. And so a child will often unleash it by moving the body, the tantrum, the arms and legs going out, the flailing about. Sometimes they'll give it voice, sometimes both, tears. They're trying to relieve themselves of these way too big emotions coursing through them. Other times they will just go totally in a hidey hole, a cave. They just turn inward, and it's very hard to stimulate any sort of conversation around it. So a beautiful way around this is called the day backwards. And whatever you like to do for your bedtime ritual, I always had storytelling rather than just reading from books, songs, same songs every single night, beautiful, like melodious songs. And then we would do some toning and mantra, but that's up to you. That's prayer, gratitude, that kind of thing, that they would come in. And day backwards. So day backwards was really simply this. You would start with right here, right now, or in bed, right? They're in their Jimmy Jams and they're ready for bed. So it's like they start from here. So I'm in bed with Mama, and Mama's telling me stories. And before that, I was getting my pajamas on. And before that, I was brushing my teeth. And before that, I ran and said goodnight to Samantha, my big sister, and to Daddy. And before that, we were playing with our blocks. And before that, we had family dinner. And before that, and then you get to, they're getting in the rhythm, in the flow. And they get to school and they're like, and before that, Tom was really mean to me and threw a stone at my foot and ran away and didn't say sorry. Or such and such said something to me, and it'll just flow out of their mouths because they're in this train. They're on the train of day backwards. And what happens is it's allowing them to replay their day without the same emotionality as if they were going from beginning to end. Have you ever noticed when you say, "How was your day, honey?" "Good." "What'd you do at school today?" "Nothing." "Anything exciting happen?" "Just usual." And same with teens, same with kids, like that will happen. So it's a different way to engage them. And as they release with the day backwards, you'll actually visibly see their body releasing all that they were holding. And you can definitely have essential oils to support them. So juniper berry has been mentioned, and I don't know if you guys know, but the big thing around juniper berry is because juniper berry and black pepper will go where we're often too afraid to go. They're in the fire element. They're berries. They're very comfortable in the darkness. They're very comfortable in the shadow, what lies in the shadow. And I think people think of shadow work as, oh my gosh, what lies in my shadow is that I was abused at 4 years old and I've tucked it away. No, it's whatever has occurred in that day or week or lifetime that has been totally disowned, unowned, not wanted to look at. It's not always just those things that you would think of, the big traumatic things. The name calling or the best friend that doesn't want to talk to you anymore, that's in there as well, you know, and maybe your self-worth is tied up. So when you do day backwards, it's like you're unraveling a ball of yarn. You know, you're unraveling it, and they get to that soft center again, and you'll notice they want to cuddle up again and all the things. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. So juniper berry is beautiful. Bergamot is like liquid sunshine in a bottle. And with bergamot's chemistry, there's lots of research around this particular essential oil, either used on its own or with others, for anyone who lives in the dark a lot, you know, like in the parts of the world where they don't have many daylight hours, or in nursing homes. You know, the witching hour that babies have, there's a witching hour in nursing homes where they become very depressed. And it's at that time of dusk going in, just as the darkness is coming again, that feeling, all-consuming feeling of aloneness. Blue tansy, she takes us so beautifully into the dreamscape and connection with the stars, the star realm, the realm within us that is the dreamer. Yeah, so she's really beautiful too. And if you want to add some black pepper, you can, but otherwise blue tansy, bergamot, and juniper are beautiful. And like Amanda said, and you know, we always say, whatever the child is drawn to is what you want to be using. Yeah. Do they need their spine anointed? Do they need their feet or their big toe anointed? You know, like what is it? Do they just need some pressure, like a weighted blanket, a little heavier blanket on them? Maybe just a little drop of essential oil on their snug rug or their soft toy they sleep with. That's really powerful. I do that for Ariel to this day. You know, before she gets into bed, I'm smearing. She does love certain scents, and I make sure I smear that over the bedding. So when she folds that over, she's breathing it in and on her pillow and the things that she's snuggling into. Yeah. And she's nearly 16, you guys. Like, I feel like we can just rush them too much. Like, oh, you're a teen now. You just do what you need. Oh, it's pretty huge what they go through as teens as well. You think their emotions are big now as kids. Wait till you get to teens. It's a whole other playing field, you know? That's why they want you to write a teens book, Amanda.
Absolutely. The other thing too, to what Vanessa is saying, like that scent memory that she was talking about with her daughter is also very calming. It triggers that immediately, that sense of calm, that safety, which we all crave when our emotions are big or things are out of control. And so it's a really beautiful thing because they have those scents that they can turn to help them feel safe and calm. So I love that. I love that you shared that. It's amazing. Really good. So any other questions?
There's a thing around that the child won't stop talking. Actually, it does the opposite. Because they're doing the day backwards, it's not so much a conversation, it's a telling. It's just a sharing. It's more detached because they're doing this unraveling. So they're not just going, oh, it's not like that. That a conversation like that happens if you're doing the day forwards or trying to insert it one day. Don't interrupt at any point that they're doing day backwards. Just let them prattle off the whole day backwards. Yeah, just to be really clear.
Really good advice there.
Mm.
Thanks, Suze. So let's see.
Looks like that's it, Amanda.
Right.
We are so grateful for you writing this amazing book. Thank you so much. I feel like it's going to serve all of us in so many ways. We've, you know, if we can just get really honest with ourselves, I think a lot of us have forgotten how to do this, how to communicate in a world where this has become an extension of our hands. And anxiety happens when we don't have it. near us, you know, we've almost forgotten that this and this and this is where we need to be connecting, you know. So thank you for bringing that beautiful remembrance to us all, and your beautiful light. Thank you for shining as brightly as you do, Amanda. You go where most people aren't brave enough to go, and I really thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And let me just end then by saying that if you haven't been in a space to show up the way that you would like to show up, and you don't feel like you've modeled what you need to model, give yourself some permission, some self-love, and some forgiveness, and step into this moving forward. We can start at any time. It doesn't matter where we've been before. You can start at any time to move forward in a more aware, healthier way. Start again every day if you need to, start again every hour if you need to. But don't think that this is some mountain to climb, that you have to be this perfect parent overnight, or that you need to understand all these concepts before you could ever share them with someone else. That's not how this works. We're all in this together. So just wanted to end by saying, just give yourself a little bit of space for your own learning, and know that every step you take in this right direction will benefit the people that you care about. That's just how it works. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, honey. You've all got the links for her book. We will send the recording out to everyone, because obviously we have people all over the world. Not everyone could join us live. So we'll send you links to purchase Amanda's book and products, and her Facebook page. I think Tracy's going to put in there how to make a nasal inhalant, just a simple way to do it. You can also just fill the glass vessel. I'll just add now. You don't have to roll it around. I just love the ritual of that. And yeah, stay blessed. Go gently with yourselves, and know that we all mess up at some stage. And also that there is a higher learning in that we don't always get in the moment. Yeah, it usually brings greater resilience, greater trust, deeper love, truer connections. Yeah, it's just maybe painful at the time. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here today.